This week we have Sarah Clay, who is an amazing LinkedIn trainer and now an author. And we're going to be talking to her about her favourite book. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me, Tim. This is very exciting. My first time live on Amazon.
Yes. And actually, I can now actually put comments up on the stream, which I never used to be able to. Well, at least hopefully I can. So, yes, it's great to have you. So, shall we talk about the first book, which is conveniently spoiled at the bottom here, which is Content Mavericks by Andrew Pete, or Andrew Pickering and Peter Gartland, to give them their full names.
I know, it's so funny because when you put that up on the screen, it said Andrew Pickering and Pete Gartland. I'm almost thinking, who are they?
Yeah.
Because we know them as Andrew and Pete, of course. So this was a bit of I have to say, this whole exercise was a bit of a challenge for me because I'm not a big reader because I've got a very short attention span. And a lot of the reading I do is audible. But I decided I wanted to have something to show, so I went to my bookshelf and I picked these particular books. So Content Mavericks is quite an old book, Andrew and Pete, and it's the first ever marketing book that I ever bought, so that's why I had to bring it. And in fact, look, I've even made notes, and these were two clients that I had at the time, JS and TW, and writing notes. And it was a brilliant start to my content creation journey. And it's a really simple guide to how to create a content strategy and activate it and do it and run it without being overcomplicated. And it's sort of marketing starts off with who's your audience and all that kind of thing. So it's very very basic, very easy, but it was brilliant to get me started. So thank you, Andrew and Pete, because it was great.
And was there anything that especially appealed to you about the book that you remember, or is it just a general, very good introduction to content marketing?
Well, I also liked it because of the way it's written. It's really friendly and it's really conversational, the way it was written. And it made me realise, actually, when I'm writing my content, that's how I should write my content, and not to try and be too stuffy and businessy. And this is what I tell my clients when I'm teaching them LinkedIn, is to write like you speak, because that's what people are used to and that's what people want. And it makes it more accessible for people. And this kind of gave me permission, if you like, to do that. So I learnt a lot from this book. And it's quite a funky cover, of course, which is also very good. But it was good because it was a practical step-by-step guide that you worked through. It was a little bit like a workbook, as well as a novel, well, not a novel, but as a reading book, if you like. So no, it was a really good kick-off for me. So if anybody's looking to start out, I guess it's still in print and they're still publishing it. It's a really good start.
Well, I certainly hope it's still in print, because on Amazon Live you put the products at the bottom, so if not, it's a bit of a waste.
There we go. I'm sure it wasn't that long ago that I started my marketing journey, but yeah, it was the first book I ever bought.
Right. Shall we go on to the next book?
So the next book, I've also had a while.
Content DNA by John Espirian.
DNA by the lovely John Espirian. Oh, and the other thing about most of the books on my bookshelf is that they're...
Ooh.
And look, John has even signed it in his brand colours with his green dot. So this book is all about being, and this is John's word, which I use quite a lot, being congruent with your everything that you do, with your whole branding, with your content, with what you say, how you say it, by being the same shape wherever you go. So everywhere you go, you're the same person, you look the same, you are the same, so that there's no surprises for people. And I love it when I meet people in person and they say to me, gosh, Sarah, you're exactly the same as you are on LinkedIn. And I'm like, well, yeah. And I honestly couldn't think how I'd be any different. But, whatever. I think people do get frightened and they have this sort of fear when they're going to post something or they're doing video or whatever on social media or on LinkedIn, and they think they've got to be all kind of formal and stiff. But this book is about not being that. Or if you're going to be stiff and formal in one place, you've got to be stiff and formal every single place that you go. So you've got to be the same. And I'm just going to think, what else? What was it? There was something in here that I did thumbnail, but I've lost it. But it is, be known for one thing. This is what John's saying. Just do one thing. And actually, the other thing that John talks about is having your attention on one particular social channel. So, and that's a big belief of mine, is to put all or most of your energies into one channel where your audience are. Work out where they are. Put your focus on that. Maybe have a secondary, tertiary channel as well, but put most of your energy where your audience are. Be the same person, be the same shape every time you show up.
Yeah.
So, thank you, John, for that. And there's a little picture of John on the back, looking very different from how he looks now. But yeah, and it's just a really, really good book. And these colours are John's colours, and he wears them everywhere he goes, this blue, red and the green.
Okay. Let me ask you a question here, as you're both LinkedIn experts, both you and John. So, what can people get from this book that they won't be able to get from your book, and vice versa? I'm just like telling you which baby to kill, sort of thing.
Oh yeah, get that baby. So yes, John is a LinkedIn expert. John works with entrepreneurs mainly on their personal profiles. I work more with companies and helping teams optimize the marketing on their personal profiles as well, but I look at it more from a corporate or a company point of view, and I also manage company pages for people, so I'm much more targeted towards companies rather than individuals. I did start out, and I still do have entrepreneurs as individuals as clients, but my main focus is slightly different. John also, he's a very different person from me, so. And I love the fact that John and I and all the other LinkedIn trainers, we're all really good friends and we help each other because we're aware that there are so many people that need LinkedIn help, but we all choose different people because of just their personalities and the way they teach and how they work. And that's one of the things I really love about LinkedIn and being a LinkedIn trainer is that you know that there's lots of different ways it can be taught. There's loads and loads of different people. And in terms of my book, which I'm coming to at the end, is thinner than John's as well. It's not as much in there. And John digs very deep into, he does lots of deep research and, looks at very tiny minutiae of things that change, whereas I'm much more about the kind of the overall picture and demystifying it and sort of taking away that fear and just getting people to get on the platform and get using it.
Okay. Shall we go on to the next bit?
The next one is very different. Take Your Shot by Robin Waite, which I actually got as a freebie in a goodie bag thing at a conference. And I think I picked it up, read it on the train on the way home the next day. And it's a story, and I do like a story, but it's a story with a meaning and a process, and it takes, whatever. And it's a story about a guy who was a golf trainer, teacher, and I was learning golf at the time as well, so it was quite the hours for money and working loads and loads of hours and just not able to earn any more money. And then he met somebody who completely flipped the whole thing around, and he suddenly was, felt more confident, was able to charge more. He set up schools and trainings, and he had other people beneath him doing the training, and he was facilitating, and it was all about growing a business basically. And Robin Waite, an English guy, is lovely. And I met him after I read his book. I contacted him actually and said, I'd really like to have a conversation with you because I think this is a really great book. It's really nicely written. And he's lovely, Robin. I think he's got a membership and what have you. And he coaches and things. And he's a really nice guy. But yeah, it's a great story. And there's just so many morals and things that you're reading and you think, oh God, no, don't do that, don't do that. Yeah, you should be doing that. Oh, that's good. Oh, thank goodness for that. And these awful stories about his wife in labour, and he was working and it was raining and his client didn't turn up, and it was terribly sad. And then he's turned it all around and of course became a multi-squillionaire and was very happy. of course, there was a happy ending. So, yes, but it's a very easy read, a story about growing your business.
Okay. Shall we go on to the next one?
The next one, so this is an interesting one. Great British Entrepreneurs by Francesca James, who I met at an event, and she gave me her book. And it's just really nice. Again, it's a collection of stories of entrepreneurs who have made it, and and their stories. And I think it's just really nice hearing other people's stories. The one I like the best is Connie Nam, who set up the jewellery brand Astrid and Miu, I think it's pronounced. And it's just some nice stories of people and how they set their businesses up. And there's little lessons you can learn in there, but it's more of a just interesting, really, to think, yeah, okay, well, they worked really, really hard and they got there. Maybe I will one day. So, it's just a really nice sort of inspiration, if you like, reading these stories. So it's a really nice one. And Francesca James is great. She runs the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, and she works very, very hard on those. So I was grateful to have the book.
It's also a very patriotic-looking cover as well, isn't it?
It's a very look at that. You see, if I open it out, look at that, and they've got the lines the right way around and everything.
Right, shall we go on to the next one?
The next one, Talk Triggers by Baer, and do be careful how you spell Baer, because it's not the usual spelling of Baer. Now, I'd read this quite a long time ago, and I got it out, and I was thinking to myself, I can't quite remember what it was about, but I know I enjoyed it, and it was really useful. And one of the things it talks about, and this is something that you will be able to resonate with, Tim, is the Cheesecake Factory. Now we've all been to the Cheesecake. I think we've been to the Cheesecake Factory together in San Diego, I believe. And it talks about how the menu on the Cheesecake Factory is so huge, but that's its talking point. People talk about how big the menu is, how vast the menu is, and to have these triggers that people talk about you. So yes, of course, about how you do your business or whatever, but for example, for me, I know a lot of people talk about my purple and orange, as well as LinkedIn and everything else, and to have these kind of triggers that help people remember who you are. And there's a little picture here, you see, 6 steps to creating talk triggers, and it talks you through each of the steps. And, quite a big fat book for me to read with quite little print. And I've thumbnailed loads and loads of the pages because it's just really useful. And it's one of those books, when I was reading it, I kept thinking, oh, yeah, oh, of course, oh, yeah. And it sort of takes those things that you do every day, but slightly rephrases them and makes you realise that, actually, yes, that is a thing. It's not just a little aside. I actually should take that piece of information and turn it around and think about how I can use that in my life. And I just really like it, and it's got lots of positive things on the back. But yeah, no, it's just a really common sense, lots of common sense in here, but applied in an interesting way. Yeah. So good old Baer.
And it's got 2 llamas on the front. Or is it alpacas?
I mean, I think they are alpacas. So, I mean, what's not to like? And it's sort of pink,
Yeah.
It's great.
Right. Should we go on to the next one?
Go on to the next one. I'm very excited, actually, about this book. So Alison Edgar is a friend of mine and has become a friend of mine over the years since I worked with her ages ago. She is epic, and she is now an MBE. She wasn't when she wrote this, or published this, rather. So she is the most amazing sales person I've ever met in my entire life. She's Scottish, and when we were working together, she used to tell me off all the time. Sarah, what do you think you're doing? She's no holds barred at all. And she said this fantastic thing, actually. And we were talking about the difference between marketing and sales. And I am going to attempt the Scottish accent, which may not be very good, but for entertainment's sake. And she said, marketing, because she plays golf too. You see, we saw the golf theme. And we were talking about golf. And she goes, marketing is getting a ball off the tee onto the green. And then sales is getting it in the hall. And I can still hear saying hall. So, and this book is so clear, it's easily written. And she talks about these, and I can't remember what they're called now, they've gone. Well, she talks about pillars. So she has these sort of pillars. Oh, there you go, signed as well. Ooh. Hang on, let me find the pillars. Pillar 1 is understanding customer behaviours. Pillar 2 is the actual sales process. Pillar 3 is the strategy, and pillar 4 is confidence. And you need all of those 4 things to move ahead. And here we are. This is what she talks about. I can't remember what they're called. When the 4 colours of
quadrant, yeah.
Yeah, and the different personalities. I can't.
Oh.
There's a peacock and a thing. They're the different colours. Different personality types.
Yeah.
So assessing what personality type you're selling to so that you can change your conversation accordingly. So whether somebody is, I can't remember the different colours. So a yellow, which is me, is somebody who just wants the kind of very kind of scattergun overview of what you're doing. Whereas I think it was the blues, like much more detail. And it talks about the difference between introverts and extroverts and how you sort of change your behaviour accordingly to make them feel comfortable and help them through the buying process. But she's fabulous, Alison Edgar. You should definitely follow her on LinkedIn because she's just brilliant. So, yeah.
Okay.
And I've got several of her books, actually, but that's just one of them.
And we go to the most important book, which is by you, obviously.
Yes, thank you for letting me talk about my own books, Tim. So this is my book, which came out only in September this year. So it's a very new, it's not very thick. And it's about LinkedIn, and it's for CEOs and companies to help them understand and get over the fear of LinkedIn, because that's the word that I hear a lot with people who said, oh no, it's too scary. We have to behave in a certain way on LinkedIn. No, we don't. We just be ourselves. And employee advocacy is a very sort of buzz phrase at the moment. We do need to think of a much shorter phrase, but it's a fantastic opportunity, employee advocacy, to basically what happens is a company will post on their company page and they will spend a lot of money in a marketing department to create content, produce content, and what have you. But because of the way that LinkedIn is designed, the company page content kind of sits slightly in a corner in its own little bit of LinkedIn, and it doesn't get out over the rest of LinkedIn, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I think. But anyway, we'll go into that another time, perhaps. So in order to get this company page content out all over LinkedIn, what a company needs to utilise is its best asset, which is its employees, and to get them taking that content, talking about the company and being advocates of the company itself. And that's how to really nail it on LinkedIn when you're a company. And even if there's only 2 of you, 2 of you, 2,000 of you, 20,000, whatever, it doesn't matter how many, more than one is better than none. So that's what the book is about. It's a very, very easy read. It's step by step why and how to set up a system of employee advocacy. And there's some tips in there. There's a chapter on setting up your company page. There's a chapter on content. So it's for CEOs, marketing departments, this is your book.
So it kind of sounds like it's more aimed at you call small to medium-sized companies. That could probably help even huge companies. I'm guessing that's the case.
It definitely can, yes. I mean, I work with small and medium-sized companies for sure. But the bigger companies can definitely benefit from this. And it's a bit sad, really, because the bigger companies, they say, I meet people say, oh yeah, we do employee advocacy. I say, okay, you tell me how that works. Well, we've got a portal and we put posts in there, and the employees go in there and they take those posts and they post them on their personal profile. I was like, Nah, that's not what it's
No,
about.
no.
That's not what I do. No, I actually get them involved properly and empower each employee to be their own personal brand, if you like, within the company. So yeah, it's for all companies really, but yeah, my agency particularly, we work with medium-sized companies.
Okay. Right. You won't be able to see it because I've taken it off the main one, but we are now in the bit of the show where we talk about you generally, and I ask you two specific questions. So the first question is, if you met somebody on the street and you had to recommend one of these books, what would be your sort of flow chart in your mind as to which book you would recommend people?
I think I would find out who they were and what they were doing first, because these books are for different people, I guess.
Yeah.
So somebody early on in their marketing journey would definitely be that one, Content Mavericks. Somebody who wasn't in marketing at all, but maybe was a business owner, would either be that one, because it's just a really nice read, or the that one. I think it's quite nice.
Yeah.
So a kind of a bit of everything, yes. Sales is definitely either Talk Triggers. Definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a bit of paper stuck to that one. And, the Content DNA book, I think, again, that's for anybody who's creating content on any social platforms with John. And for, my book, if you've got, there's more than one or two of you in the organisation, I'd recommend that one. So sorry, it wasn't a straightforward answer.
No. I used to ask people years ago about which one book they would recommend, and then everybody came back with complicated answers, so now I'm just like, oh, yeah, whatever. The second question I ask people is, and it doesn't apply to everybody, but I think it would apply to you, is have you got another book in the works, or have you got a Magnus Opus book that you want to write in the future? What books have you got coming up, or are you planning, or have you been exhausted by writing that book?
Well, I have to say, it was a much more exhausting process than I expected it to be, and it did take me a while to recover. Having said that, yes, book number 2 is in here, and it will be a collaborative book with lots of other, mainly LinkedIn. So it'll be a LinkedIn book, and it'll be a much broader book available, and it'll be targeted at anybody using LinkedIn. Yeah, anybody using LinkedIn personal profiles, whether they're employees, job seekers, or entrepreneurs. And as I say, it's all in here, and I'm sort of gathering the work at the moment. So I reckon I've got another 3 or 4 months of gathering before it's even ready to start being put together. So it won't be out. It'll possibly maybe 2025, towards the end of 2025, if I really get my skates on. Yeah, maybe, who knows?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being the guest today. And can you tell anybody watching and people watching in the future how to get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about employee advocacy, LinkedIn, or how to use the colour orange well?
That is how to blend orange and purple, actually. Yes, of course. So I am on LinkedIn. You find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Clay on LinkedIn, or my website, which is Sarah Clay Social. But LinkedIn is the place where I hang out most of the time. So yeah, come and find me. Please come and find me on LinkedIn and say hi. And I'd love you to tell me if this was the first time you'd come across me, because it's always really nice, isn't it, to know how somebody came across you. I always think it's a really nice thing. So yeah, please do come and say hi and say you met me on Tim's show. Yes,
on the show where I had the sound screwed up, so I keep taking my headphones on. It's been great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for being the guest, and thanks for anybody who's been watching on Amazon. Thanks to anybody who's watching in the future.